Dagda agus tá fáilte romh. Is mise an Scéalaí Beag. Hello and you're welcome. I'm the little storyteller. Today I'm starting my Bardic Lore series. And to begin, I'd like to consider the fact that all life is stories. Join me and let's see how important this is. So who am I anyway? I write under the pen name Scéalaí Beag, which is Irish for little storyteller. It's a personal joke of myself because the person I write about is a figure from Irish folklore, predominantly known as An Dagda Mór. Os Gaeilge in Irish, the word mór means big. So as I started to kind of do this work, I thought it'd be a funny kind of joke to just challenge my own view on size by referring to myself as An Scéalaí Beag. He's the Dagda Mór, the big guy, and I'm just a little storyteller. So I'm a writer and a storyteller. I cover, as I mentioned, areas of Irish folklore, heritage and mythology, exploring the original kind of tales and trying to retell them in a way that's accessible to people today. I'm also a presenter and events host. I kind of turn up and provide master ceremony services, but also to manage the crack, as we say in Ireland. Um, Also, upon the island of Ireland, I'm a tour guide. So I will take you about the sites and I will tell you stories about where your feet are planted and about how you are connecting to the land that you're standing on. But that's stuff for another day. I think the thing we're really here to talk about today in my first of this Bardic Lore series is what is the function of story? What function does it serve? Are they all just tall tales? Or is there something more? So my personal view of story covers what comes hard earned, shall we say, from reading ever since I was a small child. I was the kid who was very, very quiet and sat in the corner with a book, read uh, more than talked in some instances, but I'm making up for the talking part of it now. So classically, what we understand as a story is a way or a medium of transferring a tale, either in words, in writing, or orally in shared conversation. Usually stories kind of cover anything and everything from, oh, well, did you hear about the person down the road or like, the dog I saw or, going out to the shops, that they're all stories, or up to the larger tales, the sinking of the Titanic, the battles that we all, know of, the stories of the heroes, the Luke Skywalkers of the world or, the Hugh Cullens of the world. So the purpose for me of a story is to transfer information, to kind of share with someone an insight or perspective around a particular topic, a particular person, a particular experience. If we consider how long humanity has existed with communication, we're going way, way back into our ancestors. We're going right back to early Stone Age, where communication, was beginning to take form. As soon as we began to have greater intellect, we began to need language, and as soon as language was a facet of our existence as a species, we had to have some way to communicate, some kind of baseline to share our experiences. So story begins with language, and as I would postulate in my personal view of things, that as soon as we had language, we had stories. So why would you tell a story? What's the purpose of telling a story? It covers a lot of different things. I mentioned, like, to educate, to kind of share, to kind of connect. And that connect is the thing that's, most interesting to me, because the story involves more than just one person. It's a community-based interaction. And community can even be two people standing somewhere. Oh, let me tell you a bit. Or have you heard the one a bit? You know, in Ireland's ancient folklore, when someone is actually addressed for a story, or asked a question, the response invariably starts with, "Ah, sure, it's not hard to tell." And the moment that someone says that, settle in, you're in for a tale. So why though? Why are the stories important? You know, what makes stories so important to us? Are they just words? Is it something that we just do to pass the time? I believe there's a little bit more to it than that. Stories connect us. Stories help define us. Through the medium of story, you're able to share your perspective. And a perspective is a gift that's rarely kind of passed up. An understanding of someone else's view of reality or someone else's view of an experience or an item or an individual. All of these are transferred by a story. And stories have become so very important because they help define the person's understanding of their reality. They help all of us embrace and learn and connect with the world that is around us. From the stories of, like, sun gods and chariots of fire going across the land, the stories of ancient Irish heroes arriving in kind of skyships to land upon the mountains of our island, you know, all the way up until today, the stories of, the rise of the people in order to define our nation's future together, to kind of, establish marriage equality, to establish, like, the bodily autonomy rights. All of these are stories and driven by stories. So stories are very, very important to us. If you consider how much time we spend, streaming or watching TV on the Netflix and whatever else, all of that is stories. Consider the millions and billions that are funneled into going to the cinema, like, the large production movies. All of that is stories. We're constantly engaged in a cycle of creation and consumption of stories, and every story we interact with changes our view of our reality. Maybe I'm kind of tipping on some of the importance of stories because it helps us define and understand things. Me personally, I don't like horror stories. They don't give me joy and comfort. But I know other people who absolutely adore them because they challenge their perceptions of their view. The people who absorb, say, the post-apocalyptic zombie material that's come across in the last decade. On some baseline interaction level, those stories are connecting with people's fears. And there are different types of individuals who connect with that. Me, I'm like, yeah, no thanks. Other people don't want to experience that, want to experience a view of the world on the other end of an apocalypse. What would that be like? How would they view? How would they exist? How would they subsist? Some of us prefer, a story with a happy ending, a story with a bit of humor, or a story that tricks the emotion, that brings forth the feelings. Because that's some of the power of stories. It interacts with us, it engages us, it makes us more than what we are as a baseline because we're able to view things that our own perceptions would not provide for us. Stories go into our minds, and in our minds they percolate and they move and they grow. Have you ever watched a movie or read a book and then had a dream about it? Or, a nightmare about it? It means that it made it into your subconscious, made it into deeper parts of your brain. And then that can inspire creativity. That can inspire great things within each of us as we engage with those stories, as those stories challenge us to do more. One other thing I'd like to note on the importance of story is how it links in with our culture, how it links in with who and what we are. If stories are so important, if the impact of stories are so big on our daily lives, then as a collective, the communities that experience those stories, that share those stories, are in a way defined by those stories. In my country in the past, we have suffered oppression, we have suffered conquers, and it's not just my island of Ireland. Many countries around the world have experienced colonization. It brings good things, brings bad things. You know, one of my personal beliefs is that the quickest way to conquer a people is to deny them of their culture. And one of the biggest parts of any culture anywhere in the world is its stories and the people who tell the stories. So in this series of wee videos, taking a few minutes, maybe we can talk more about those people who share stories, about how stories inform our way of understanding reality. And along the way, maybe I'll tell you a few stories. Thank you very much for stopping by. You know what to do at this point. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. This may not be regular content, so if you don't want to miss out on the next part, you may want to kind of hit that notification bell. And I'll pop up some information about how to connect with me on the end screen and in the description below. Gurv Mahagat, thank you. August Slán. Goodbye.